Hi, I'm Pam and I'm here to talk about retro video games. Today I'm talking about one of the most deceptively friendly looking platformers I've ever played. It's Rayman. Rayman was developed by Ubisoft and released in September 1995. While it was a launch title for the Sony PlayStation, which is the system I've always associated with and what this review will focus on, it also released for the Atari Jaguar and would later come out on Sega Saturn, PC, and Game Boy Advance. In Rayman's world, people live harmoniously with nature, while the Great Pro Toon protects all. But one day, the evil Mr. Dark steals the Great Pro Toon, ruining its protection and scattering the Electoons which gravitate all around it all over the world. I always wondered where the new tunes were in all of this. Batilla the Fairy tasks Rayman, a hero with no limbs, with collecting all the captured Electoons, freeing the Great Pro Toon, and restoring balance to the world. Rayman is strikingly colorful and vibrant. Each level makes full use of the PlayStation's color palette. The character sprites, whether it's Rayman himself or the many enemies you'll face, are all large and exceptionally detailed. The whole thing looks like some kind of fantastical dreamland. Or maybe an acid trip? Why not both? The game features 6 worlds, each containing multiple levels, which themselves are made up of multiple stages. You can access them by way of an overworld map. The map is not entirely linear, and there is some choice around what level to tackle next. The level markers show the amount of Electoon cages you've found. Each level has 6, and in order to access the final world and complete the game, you need to find every single one of them. Rayman's moveset starts out very simple. In the first stage, you can only walk, jump, climb, and make funny faces. Batilla the Fairy will give you new abilities as you progress, and you won't get your full complement until the halfway point. The first one is the ability to punch with your fist. Tapping square will do a short punch, while holding it down will make you wind up for an attack that is stronger and travels further. You'll later get the abilities to hang from ledges, grapple and swing on flying rings, glide with the use of your helicopter hair, and finally, run. There are also a few abilities you'll only get for certain stages, like being able to plant a beanstalk to escape water rising up on you, or a firefly to light your way in an otherwise completely dark area. Before I get to the meat of the review, let's talk a little about how Rayman came to be. Rayman, the character, was created by Michel Ancel. Ancel was hired by Ubisoft as a teenager because of his talent as a graphic artist. Though Ubisoft had been around since 1986, they hadn't made much of a name for themselves before Rayman. During the 80s, they were making games for the Amstrad CPC, a computer mostly popular in the UK and Western Europe. Together with programmer Frédéric Hood, Ancel pitched a prototype for a new game to Ubisoft. The founders decided this would be a showcase for Ubisoft, and at times dedicated over 100 developers to the project. Finding a console for Rayman proved difficult. While Ancel first began programming Rayman alone on an Atari ST, Ancel and Hood officially began developing the game for the SNES CD, a system which would never be released. A prototype of this version of the game was made in 1992 and thought to be lost. However, in 2016, Frédéric Hood discovered the cartridge containing it and allowed a fan to dump the ROM to make it available to the public. The story was completely different, and the capabilities of the Super Nintendo really didn't do the game justice. When the system was cancelled, the developers had to choose a new home console for Rayman. In a competition between the Atari Jaguar and the 3DO, the Jaguar won out because it could run the game at 60 frames per second, support 65,000 colors, and had extremely smooth scrolling. Another change came when the Sony PlayStation was announced, and Ubisoft decided that Rayman would be a launch title for the system in North America and Europe. This move ensured its success, as in North America, it was one of only 9 titles available at the console's launch. I feel like Rayman is a little overlooked, despite the fact that it sold 4 million copies on PS1, which puts it up there with the Resident Evils, Tomb Raiders, and Spyro games. And I think that Rayman is a game people should be playing and talking about. While most other developers were going the 3D route on the new 5th generation systems, Ubisoft created a 2D world that still looks fantastic now. No ugly polygons, no weird camera controls to worry about. It's a game that's very comfortable and easy to pick up and play today. At least at first. I'll get to that. Rayman is packed with personality. Aesthetically, this is one of the most appealing games I've ever played. Rayman is such a jovial-looking character, and even the enemies who are out to get you have endearing animations. When Rayman is awaiting a boss fight to start, he chews his nails nervously. Checkpoints are represented by having your picture taken. The combination of the animations and musical flourishes when you finish a level or defeat a boss are so good. Yeah! They always put a smile on my face, no matter how frustrating the level may have been. How can you not immediately fall in love with this game? Each world changes things up significantly, both in terms of looks and the mechanics you'll get to play with. The Dream Forest looks like a more psychedelic version of the Green Hills levels that start most platformers, and features an area where you get to ride the mosquito boss that you just defeated and befriended. Bandland has you slipping across musical staves, bouncing on drums, riding rising maracas, and trying to avoid sharp musical notes. It ends with a fight against a giant saxophone. Picture City features levels made up of art supplies, colored pencils, bouncy erasers, and a sea of ink to avoid. One of the stages in Blue Mountains gives Rayman the ability to not just glide with his helicopter hair, but to remain in flight indefinitely. These unique stages keep things interesting, and the particular platforming skills each level tests keeps evolving. Bosses are all cartoonish looking, but dangerous. They have attack patterns which switch up frequently, keeping you on your toes. Later fights have lots of things to avoid and infrequent chances for you to land a hit. Each stage is accompanied by a fantastic score which was composed by Remy Gazelle. Most tracks are bright and energetic, a perfect backdrop to the colorful levels. But they can also be mysterious and suspenseful in certain stages, or on boss fights. Rayman's cartoony appearance, initial slow pace, and the simplistic mechanics at the very start may lead one to believe that this is an easy game. The first world can lull you into a false sense of security. You start out the game with 3 lives and can gain more by finding 1-up trophies, completing hidden challenge levels, or collecting 100 tings, which are the blue orbs you see all over the place. After a couple stages, I was up to 11 lives. Wow, I'm good, I thought to myself.
It's a piece of cake!
I have really good memories of playing Rayman as a kid when it first came out, but I must not have ever gotten very far. While the Dream Forest is a lot of fun, once you reach the second world, Bandland, there is an incredible spike in difficulty. I was shocked playing through this now at how difficult it gets. And it's often difficult in ways that feel cheap. Rayman, by default, has 3 hit points, and grabbing power-ups can increase this to 5. The power-ups also increase the range, speed, and damage of his fist. However, I'd say that 95% of my deaths were from falling, or getting knocked into pits, and dying instantly. Levels are rife with slippery or disappearing platforms, leaps of faith, and areas which require memorization. Other than on boss fights, where those 5 hit points are definitely needed, being able to take a few hits wasn't all that useful. When you die, you not only lose a life, but also any power-ups you have and all of your tings. So if you die after collecting 90 of them, you're not just losing one life, but you're shot at gaining an extra. The game also uses a ton of spawn triggers. When you pass a certain place, a sound cue will play, indicating that something has spawned near you. It could be an Electoon cage, a platform, a power-up, or a group of enemies. Sometimes these spawn triggers are exceptionally mean, like having one right before you hit the stage finish flag and spawning an extra life behind you. Enemy spawns come out of nowhere and often end up directly in your path. You get 5 continues, which, unless you're some kind of platforming savant, will not be enough. Luckily, there are built-in cheat codes. I made use of the 99 lives code multiple times. Some levels are incredibly rough and made worse by checkpoints being in short supply and never being near the hardest parts. I could easily burn through dozens of lives because of one tricky spot. The second last stage of Presto Allegro in Bandland almost broke me. The end of it has multiple runs of tiny, slippery platforms, some of which are being encircled by enemies, and clouds which disappear 1 second after landing on them. And then there was Twilight Gulch in the Blue Mountains. It's a long level with 0 checkpoints. After surviving multiple chase sequences, dodging exploding rocks, grappling on falling rings, and doing the disappearing clouds thing again, I was shot in the face by a hunter standing right in front of the finish line, and I fell to my death. At that point, I can say I truly hated Rayman. If this were some other game that wasn't so pretty and that I hadn't convinced myself I loved, I would have quit. Just getting from start to finish in each stage is enough of a challenge. Having to go off the path to look for Electoon cages so you can access the final world isn't that appealing. It's just more chances to die and have to play a long segment over again. Luckily, there's a cheat code for this as well, which you can enter in the password screen. The final world, Candy Chateau, is actually a fair bit easier than the rest of the game. Here, you're faced with a dark version of Rayman, who copies your every move and will kill you instantly if he touches you. Avoiding Dark Rayman was fun and totally doable. The next stage reverses the controls, so you have to press left to go right and vice versa. Initially, this was intimidating, but it ended up being much easier than most earlier levels. The world is capped off with a long and quite challenging boss rush, though. Ubisoft has admitted that they didn't do much playtesting of Rayman. Though it looks quite polished and obviously underwent quality assurance testing, it's unlikely they ever had anyone sit down to play it from start to end, or see how a new player handled things. This helps explain the incredible difficulty, and it's also evident in how the combat works. Often, the height enemy hitboxes are at and the trajectory that Rayman's fist travels just don't line up. Enemies can be shorter than you and unreachable, or block all attacks from the front. And on boss fights, it's not always clear when they're susceptible to your attacks. Rayman may just be one of the most difficult games I've ever finished, and I've come away with mixed feelings on it. I still think it's one of the most attractive games I've played, with wonderful animations and a superb soundtrack. I like how the game is always throwing new abilities and mechanics at you to keep things interesting. But the game can be extremely frustrating, and deaths can often feel unfair. I think that Rayman is totally worth starting and experiencing, but not necessarily worth finishing. And if you're looking for another game that is high on charm and challenge but won't drive you nuts, then I suggest one of the newer Rayman games, Rayman Legends or Rayman Origins. If you've got time, stick around and check out one of my other videos. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.